What does a contraction feel like? How do I know if I'm in labor? And what does the day of labor look like? Wait, is this normal? Hey, I'm Heidi Campbell, a certified birth doula, host of this podcast, Birth Story, and owner of My Doula Heidi. I have supported hundreds of women through their labor and deliveries, and I believe that every one of them, and you, deserves a microphone and a stage. So here we are. Listen each week to get answers to these tough questions and more. Birth Story, where we talk about pregnancy, labor, deliveries, where we tell our stories, share our feelings, and of course, chat about our favorite baby products and motherhood. And because I'm passionate about birth outcomes, you will hear from some of the top experts in labor and delivery. Whether you are pregnant, trying desperately to get pregnant, I hope you will stick around and be part of this tribe. Episode 10, Daddy Bootcamp. All right, moms, because I know you're my target audience, grab your partner and get prepared for a little Daddy Bootcamp. And I have to say, I'm really excited about this episode because if you go to iTunes right now and you type in Daddy Bootcamp, I might be one of only 2 episodes on all of iTunes with this title. Okay, so now everybody's comfortable. You've got the mics, we're cheeked in here. Cheeked in, and you're gonna talk out. So we're just gonna see if you scratch your face, you're gonna hear it, and if you do this, and it's okay. I mean,
we're beard cream in, so hopefully it's
we're gonna
nice
tell everybody
sleek.
that we're drinking beer. So I'm Heidi with the Birth Story podcast, and I've got 3 of my favorite dads with me today. So Garin, Wells, and Derek. And we just grabbed some beer, and we are ready to dig into our first Daddy Boot Camp. It's going to be incredible. So Garin, let's start. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how old your baby is and who your wife is.
I'm Garin Gross. My wife is Madeline, and we welcomed our little guy, Baker, Ty, into the world on May the 29th. 2:08 a.m.
So how old does that make him now?
8.5 months.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Wells, tell us about you.
Wells Vance, got a little 6-week-old at the house. Wonderful wife, Sarah.
And then Derek, can you introduce yourself?
Derek Whitmire, my wife Sarah as well. We have a 2.5-year-old, and we have another daughter that is on the way, and due date for that is April 18th.
Okay, so right now we've got 8.5 months, 6 weeks old, pregnant, and then also a 2.5-year-old. So we have so much to learn from you guys. It's going to be awesome. Let's do a cheers. Raise your beers. Cheers.
Cheers.
There you go. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. We did a lot of heavy lifting.
All right. So the reason that we're doing this podcast today on Birth Story is because this is going to be free Daddy Boot Camp. So we're here to talk to all of our listeners, or all of our listeners' partners that they're forcing to listen to this episode of the Birth Story podcast on, the transition to becoming a dad for the first time, for the second time, and kind of what that looks like. So I'm going to start with pregnancy. All right, we're going to get real, and I'm going to ask you some tough questions. I apologize to the wives in advance. I want to hear. Let's start with Garin. How, and from your perspective, was Madeline's pregnancy? How did you handle her pregnancy?
Well, before we decided to have a baby, we wanted to travel, enjoy each other first. And we felt that we did that over a 2 or 3 year, 2-year span leading up to her getting pregnant. And I guess it was around the August time frame. It didn't take that long. We said, all right, we'll get the party started. And whenever it happens, and, great, it'll be awesome. And when it finally did happen, it was like, holy shit, this is real now. We were prepared as much as you can be. But at the same time, it was, you try to research, you try to learn, you try to do things to prepare yourself. But as the process goes along, you find out that there's no right book, there's no right website, everybody's got fucking advice for you. And at the end of the day, you you make it your own.
Yeah.
So, but her pregnancy was awesome.
And it only took, how long did you try?
It started like in August, at her around her birthday time, I guess, and then bam, by like middle of September. So like, I told her, I said, man, you can get a lot of mileage out of this.
So that's my next question. When was the next time you had sex after you found out she was pregnant?
Well, she had morning sickness and I asked her to truly tell me what did it feel like. A 24/7 hangover was her response, and it lasted for 4.5 months. I think the last time there was like a 4.5 month span might have been was a fucking virgin, right? But at the same time, it's like trying to keep her at the forefront and. Of course, if she's not feeling good, even times that I'd even pick and prod a little bit, if you want to, we can. And
how did you help her when she wasn't feeling good?
You hate to say being her servant, but just kind of as if she was sick. So anything that she needed, and a lot of times just being personable to bring her something home, or if it's her favorite drink or food, or just to make her feel comfortable, or to take care of, obviously, the 5 Love Languages book, she's a big acts of service person. That's her, like, here are the other 4, and then acts of service is way up here. And she is just completely, anything that I could do, like if it's laundry, and we're a team no matter what. But she, I'm sure, really appreciated me taking it a step further, trying to basically take almost everything off the plate so she could focus on just resting and feeling better.
Awesome. And was she working throughout her pregnancy?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Worked for her dad and her brother still, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
so, Wells, I know, and Sarah was already on here, but from your perspective, like, how did pregnancy go for Sarah?
So I honestly thought it would be a big change, big mood swing for her. She honestly stayed pretty much the same even keel throughout the entire time.
Yeah.
I was waiting for her to eat the pickles and ice cream and random things that she wanted, but she was more or less just kind of moved from like spinach salads to my kind of style, pizza and beer and burgers and stuff like that. So the pregnancy, she really didn't change too much overall, so it was really nice and kind of easy for us to get into it. We've been together 10 years at that point.
Okay.
And, we were ready to have our first. So.
And she didn't really suffer from a lot of the sickness or anything like that. And so,
no morning sickness, none.
So, Wells, what was that moment like when you found out that you guys were having a baby? Like, how did she tell you she was pregnant?
So we had a couple friends coming over that night, and we were going to go all out to eat, and she had just taken a pregnancy test, one of the cheap ones we had gotten off like Amazon, like 100 of them. And she tested it, and then ended up with like the blue lines, and she was like, oh crap, I think I'm pregnant. So she went and got like 3 more of them and did the same thing, and she was like, Wells, we're pregnant. And I was like, all right, I was so excited.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let's go, get one of the nice ones from CVS or whatever, go spend $40 on. And ended up same thing. So we kind of, felt real blessed at that moment. And it was, 9 months from there. And
so I'm going to ask you the same question then. So Garin's wife was a little bit sick. Sarah didn't really have a lot of that sickness. So when was the next time you had sex?
So it really didn't stop. I think it was even that night.
Okay, like a little celebratory go.
Yeah.
Okay, so just right there, that's a really good point for anyone who's listening. Like dads that are listening is like, hey, your wife may feel great, but she may not feel great either. So like really kind of finding that balance. So Derek, tough question to you now. Go. So we already interviewed you a couple of weeks ago on what it was like, but let's just kind of recap because Derek and Sarah had an unplanned pregnancy. And so just kind of share your reaction and how her pregnancy went from your perspective. Yeah. Did everybody hear that scratchiness? Hopefully it's...
So my reaction wasn't good, mainly because we had been married for 5 or 6 months, and it was a massive shift. It didn't feel like the marriage was going to last to me. So, and a lot of guys I've talked to have said that they've experienced this. I thought it was a hoax or something, but even people who lived with their spouse before they got married had told me, yeah, it changes when you get married. And I'm like, I've known this person since we were in college, so I don't really see that. Man, the expectations were just different, like totally different. And so it was kind of a scary time, and it wasn't talking about kids wasn't anywhere in the picture because I didn't see her still wanting to be married to me a year from then. I thought, well, I was going to do my normal, just wait for them to leave kind of thing because I hate change. So I'm like, she seems miserable. Eventually she's gonna dump me and I'll be back to square one and whatever, back to the drawing board. But she was like,
but
hey.
then she was pregnant.
Yeah. And that was terrifying. So I reacted in like every bad way imaginable initially.
But you guys liked each other a little bit if you are still having sex.
Yeah, but
if a baby came to be.
Yeah, I can't even, I don't know. I think it was a makeup sex thing. Like we had one of our knockdown dragouts and then we made up as we do, and there you go. But
so let me just ask you that same question then too. So how was her pregnancy though, like from your perspective? Do you feel like she was healthy and felt good, or was she sick? How was she doing?
She was miserable. She hated every second of it and was, and also dealing with the fact that she didn't have, for the first 6 weeks or a couple months, a supportive husband, in the sense that, I just didn't know what was going to happen. It felt like she was disconnected from me to begin with, and then you talk about adding being pregnant to that and all the fear and anxiety and unknowns that come with that. I was a distant second, like not even anywhere on her radar as far as being concerned with me and what, it was her and the baby, which is probably makes sense of what it should be.
So let me stop right there. Wells and Garin, did you guys ever feel like you were a distant second to the pregnancy?
Like for me, from the beginning, like I said, Madeline and I grew up in the same neighborhood when we were kids. We've known each other for 20 years. She was my girlfriend, on and off through middle school and elementary school, the whole nine. I always tell people I've loved her since I was little. And so we've always just kind of we were super really good friends too before that. So it was hand in hand. We experienced everything together from start to finish.
Yeah.
So, no secrets. She would tell me how she felt. That type of deal.
I'm just going to call you out right now because let's just do it. Let's just get the scratches out because I coached Garin that like if you scratch your beard, everyone's going to hear it, but then he's going to do it the whole time anyway. So let's just do it. Let's just have a beer scratching moment.
I'm going to leave my hands on the table.
No, do it. Come on. So, I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know you are.
So, Wells, like same, question to you. Did you feel like you were coming in second place or did you feel like a team?
I definitely felt like we were. Sarah's more of a lead person, so I just kind of let her do her thing, and I just tried to be the supportive person, but she would never really tell me if there was a level of pain. Anyways, she's just one of those people that she's already ran a marathon. She's has no level of tolerance. She puts up with me daily, so it's. Yeah,
you're so funny. His wave hiked Mount Kilimanjaro without training for it.
She hiked Crowder's Mountain. That was her training.
Crowder, which is for anyone who's not in the Charlotte area, Crowder's Mountain's like what elevation 2,000 to train for. I don't even know what the elevation is. 19,000 for Mount Kilimanjaro.
There in Machu Picchu. So.
Yeah, so she's pretty tough. Okay, so my next question is, and you guys, anybody can chime in at any time, but when did you feel like you became a dad?
I'd say for me, it was probably closing in within that 8-month period.
Okay.
When I was starting to put together the stroller and starting to put in that. I was starting to see a bedroom come together for like a little, felt my wife's stomach kick the first time. I was like, wow, this is getting kind of crazy right now.
Yeah.
I was like, this would be pretty surreal here in the next month or two. So
yeah. So you really started to kind of feel that like dadness.
It was beyond the bond of hearing like the heartbeat at the doctor's office. I mean, it was more or less coming to the fact that I'm getting ready to have something in my arms.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
The whole process was fascinating for me, but like you said, hearing the heartbeat and the little things leading up, putting the things together, the baby shower, even though up until that point you don't see them, but once you actually see them, it's still at the point was like, is this real? Like, is somebody going to take their baby back with them? For me, it was getting in the car to go home, and it's like they're letting us leave this hospital.
So, like,
this
as
baby.
your son's coming out of your wife's vagina, and you're watching that go down, it still wasn't real for you.
It was real. It was like, I mean, it didn't sink in completely. I mean, holding them, the experience, like I said, was fascinating. But it was the ride home when we were leaving all the help. And Heidi, you've known me for quite a few years now. I'm never short on questions. And I used and abused the nurses with questions and stuff in the process because you want to be for sure. This is the first time for me and her. And
like, give me an example.
Madeline's introverted, so it's more of, when
like, were you afraid, like, how to put him in the car seat, or how to hold him, or how to swaddle him? Or
swaddling was one of them. The Smartest Baby on the Block, I think, is the name of the book. One of them that
happiest baby.
The 5 S's, and swaddle is one of the S's. I know, of course, you can look at the diagram, you can watch the nurse, but every time Madeline would be like, swaddle him, and I'd ask the nurse to come in real quick. Can you show me one more time so I know how to do this? So, but
did you watch any YouTube videos on swaddling?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So, but the end all be all is when we got home and we got the ones that have the fucking Velcro and you just pow.
Swaddle is done.
Swaddle is done. But it was, like I said, leaving the hospital, and it was me and her, and he was in the back seat, and it was like, wow, this is my family.
Yeah. Derek, when did you feel like a dad for the first time?
It's an evolution. I mean, I think the bigger her stomach got, the more it seems like, man, there's really a human in there. And, I would say, I mean, it's hard not to have a conversation about this without at least observing, when does a life begin type of a thing, which is very controversial and very personal to a lot of people.
That's all right. Go there.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion about that, but I do know that, like most things that are very exist on a spectrum, and everybody's different and has different feelings, and some people have really strong feelings. It changes. It evolves. How you think today is not going to be how you think 5 years from now, 10 years from now, once you've gone through an experience. And, to watch my wife, who I didn't know loved me, or didn't know if it was going to last or whatever, go through an experience like that and watch the biology of all that happen before my eyes, when she just looks at you and tell you she's pregnant and you don't think you have a great marriage, that's a different thing than somebody that, okay, so my wife, is a go-getter. I mean, we met in college. She got 2 degrees in less time than it took me to get 1. She got her PhD before she was 25. And then she is a little bit of a control freak, and that intimidates me a little bit, but we know each other. So it's like we had a great dating relationship, and, I was very attracted to her for lots of reasons, but she's got a force field around her, and that just came crumbling down with the experience of growing a child inside of her. And that was very attractive to me. And that in a lot of ways saved our marriage, because I was like, that vulnerability is something that I needed to see. And
it let you in. because she needed you. She had to lean on you.
Yeah.
Because I'm saying, like, so that everyone who's listening here, you guys are in a great place now, and baby number 2 is on the way. And so I want you to answer the question also from the second baby perspective, because now you're already a dad, and now she's pregnant again. So was it more real earlier, or was it still wait until when her belly was growing again?
No, I mean, it's totally different because I wanted to have a sibling for my Shia and you know, a bigger family. I just wanted that desperately and knew that the timing was never going to feel awesome, you know, but I had to struggle to get my CFP, Certified Financial Planning designation, you know, and that's a 2-year process, and I failed the first time, so it was longer for me, and I wanted to get over that hump because that put a lot of stress on her while I was going through that, and the idea was if I got over that hump, then it would be like really feel good about it and exciting, and that's exactly what it was. I just didn't know, like Garin, you know, and I know you will have and have had people that struggle to get pregnant, and it's really, really not talked about thing. I don't know why it's taboo, but like so many of our really close friends, it becomes really emotional, you know.
And nobody here had a fertility journey, right? Everybody got pregnant pretty easily.
Yeah.
The next time I do a daddy boot camp, I'll probably do like 3 dads that had a fertility journey.
So we had a false sense of security because of seeing all that. I was like, this is going to take a long time. It's going to be a great fun time, you know, trying. That's what
I thought
Wells
too.
Yeah.
and Garin. What? Are you about? Do you have something to tell me?
Oh, no. I meant as in, like, he talked about,
Yeah.
like,
I was like, oh my gosh.
You were saying, yeah,
announcement for
first
baby
try,
2.
man.
the gates are open. We can have some fun now.
First try. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to jump off topic real quick and go to something, because you mentioned your job and being a CFP. And I know that, Garin, you work for a pharmaceutical company in sales. Wells, I feel like you're in sales for something. What do you do?
I work in logistics.
In logistics. Okay. So what was everybody's like return to work plan? Like how much time did you get off work before you had to go back?
With our pharmaceutical company, you get 4 weeks, or it's 28 calendar days. So it's basically a full month from the day that the baby's born. So 4 weeks at home, and I have to say, and I know that it is more advocated than it ever has been, and rightfully so. I would wish that everybody could experience from a dad perspective, and it's sad that some moms go close to directly back to work, but to spend every moment of those 4 weeks to wake up and grab them and to take every nap, those 4 weeks were the best. And when I went back to work, I had no guilt, and I was ready.
And did you feel bonded?
Unbelievable. So family bonding time is what it's called. It was legit.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah. Personally.
Wells, what about now? I know. Let's tell this story, okay? Let's just rip the Band-Aid right open, because Trip, his little baby, was born on December 31st, 2018.
Oh.
And then what happened on January 1st, 2019?
January 1st, 2019 would be 2 weeks for me to have paid off at work. So I missed it by 10 hours from getting paternity leave at my company. So
that for everybody listening, let's talk about how bad that sucks, right? Like, so it's awesome because your baby was born and he's healthy, but you had to go right back to work.
So I am very fortunate. I do have 6 weeks of vacation each year.
Okay.
Unlike a lot of people, I've been at the same company for a long time.
Yeah.
But my in-laws actually were there, so we come back from the hospital on Tuesday. Wednesday, I stay home, and I go back to work Thursday. So I mean, I take 1 day off.
Wow. Okay.
And go right back at it.
Okay. And then you have those vacation days available.
I can use them whenever.
Yeah.
I just more or less was probably going to use it when Sarah goes back to work at the end of March, which is 3 months. So take a couple weeks off with them before we put them in some kind of.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're missing something? Like, do you feel sad about that?
So I currently enjoy every little morning waking up, snagging him, changing his diaper, hanging out with him a second, and then handing him off to Sarah. And then every night when I come home, it's my time and his time, because Sarah's like, oh, I can go to the grocery store. I can go do this.
Yeah.
So I get on my full bond time right there, and I'm just like, at that time, I get more of his awake time.
Yeah.
Than him just the napping time, because then at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I can go put him in my arms, and he's trying to take a nap. And we can both go to sleep early. So
you guys are really like tag teaming it, you know, like she's got him during the day, then you've got him in the morning and at night. That's kind of a nice balance too, to still get that bond. And then Derek, does your company, do they offer paternity leave?
Yeah, it came into place a few months before Shia was born, so
okay,
that was really good timing. I had the other end of that spectrum where it worked out perfectly, and some of my friends actually were pregnant at the time when we found out that was the new policy, and it was pretty, because it's 6 weeks and you can split it up. I think I did like a month or 3 weeks and then took some time, but
yeah, it's interesting, the spread, right? So Vanguard gives you 6 weeks. Wells, your company just implemented 2 weeks. AstraZeneca gives 4 weeks. I think that's pretty standard in that industry. And then the banking industry gives 12 weeks.
Yeah, my dad works for Bank of America, and he gets 12 weeks, the guys that work under him. So.
Yeah, so it's really like, just to kind of like, let's just put that out in the world. We have a huge discrepancy between paternity leave in this country, depending on what company you work for. And then I'll go back to Derek, because you got the most time off. So when you went back to work, did you feel like super bonded with Shia? Like you got, or did you want to stay home longer, or were you ready to go back to work sooner?
I was enamored with her. I was amazed at the whole experience. I remember the day she was born, we had been in the hospital for 24 hours. I woke up, watched the sunrise from our hospital window, and took a photo of it, because I was like, this is the day I become a dad. Like, this is a really big deal. And I was crying, and like, it was a great experience, and I loved having her in our home. And but it was really, really hard also for Sarah and me. I liked holding her, but really I was in another place too mentally. I just was foreshadowing.
You had to pass the CFP.
The needs of our family, and it was tough.
No, that's a big deal when you have like a big stressor or a big deadline at work, and you have a baby that's on the way, and you know that getting that next promotion is going to provide a lot more for your family. Like, I think it's pretty admirable. All right, so let's get into the delivery. I have the benefit of 2 of these people. I was their doula. I mean, God, Garin, what is wrong with you and Madeline for not hiring me?
I will tell you this, Madeline. Now, I do a lot of the talk. She's introverted. I'm extroverted, but when she talks, I listen. I learned that. So she did say, I would actually have Heidi as my daughter, because she's a very private person. But we actually talked about this earlier today, of just how the childbirth process changed her whole mentality around privacy when it comes to that. So
it gets thrown out the window.
You'll probably be getting a call this next go around.
I did get an opportunity to talk to you guys on the phone a couple of times to prepare for the birth, and just they had questions that came up, so that was really good. But just dive in. Tell me about the day of delivery from your perspective. Like, how'd it go down?
All right, so Memorial Day weekend, and it's on a Sunday, so you're teetering. Well, I want to have a couple cocktails, but I don't want to go too deep, because tonight could be the night. Her best friend was at the lake, and her sister-in-law was there. She's a pediatric nurse, and she said, "Baby's going to be a while." This baby's going to be a while. And baby came that
And you
night.
were like, drink.
Well, I was like, I want to enjoy some cocktails, enjoy the lake. And that next morning, in between 4 and 5, her water broke. And then I was like, are you sure? I've never seen what a water break looks like. So she's in the shower, and I'm like, show you. Yeah. And so she kind of swaddles her legs. And I'm like, oh, okay. Water's broke, all right.
Like she showed you her wet pants.
Or no, she was in the shower.
Yeah.
And then, kind of spread her legs a little bit.
Oh, and you could see it coming out.
You could see it coming
Okay.
out. So
Got
that was
it.
like the first experience there.
And you're like, that's not pee or shower water.
That's okay, all right. That's the real deal.
Okay.
So,
was she in labor or did her water break first?
Her water broke first, and we called because she wanted to hold out as long as they would let her before we actually went to the hospital. So, if I'm not mistaken, it was around 6 or 7. We get to the hospital, and they get her checked in, and she doesn't have Baker until that next day at 2:08. So it was a 22-hour
2:08 a.m.
a.m. So it was 22-hour labor process. But even when we were there, so of course I have 100 million questions. And I'm like, is she experiencing contractions yet? And of course they've hooked her up to the belt, and she's explaining to me, saying she's actually had some. She probably just doesn't feel them yet. Now, Madeline, of course, has VonWillebrands, which is a blood disorder where your blood doesn't clot. I hope I've said that properly. Okay. But, so no epidural. The OB did not...
she knew going into birth an epidural wasn't an option.
Was not an option. Yeah, so it was, from the mental perspective, so it wasn't an option. Didn't want to risk the bleeding on the spine.
Yeah.
So she didn't... It was going to be all natural. So that's going in. And then, of course, I told you, she's got a poker face. I don't care what it is in our relationship. And I told her I can read things pretty good, but I'm still trying to figure her out sometimes. But from the pain perspective, by the time they started Pitocin, she wanted to get the contractions really rolling, kind of get the process going, so we didn't have to have a C-section.
Yeah.
And so she...
That would also be a problem for a clotting disorder.
So it's just... All natural was the way that she wanted to really go. And then once the Pitocin kicked in, that's when, I could start to see a little discomfort. And then...
They ended up inducing her because her water had broken and her contractions really weren't picking up. It sounds like.
Basically, or her contractions did start to pick up, but then
they just needed them to go a little bit faster because her water was broken.
Yes. So once that happened, I think she was like 1 centimeter dilated, and
she was like, I have to have a natural childbirth.
Yeah, and it's like, so they do the vaginal check, and then while she's up there, the OB kind of like, I could see her give that, oh God, look on her face, and she was in pain, and she kind of, I guess, stretched her out a little bit.
Yeah.
And she said she's 3 centimeters now. By midnight we could be looking at it's go time.
Yeah.
So, she all natural, but towards the end, it was brutal. I could tell, and there's no...
What were you doing to help her?
There was no... And that's the thing. It's like, there is nothing you can do, and there's never been a more time that I felt helpless. You can tell her and you talk to her and comfort her as much as you can, but I know that's a mental thing.
Yeah.
And just being there for her, though, and letting her know I'm right here if you need anything. So it was an experience.
22 hours is that's mental strength. Sarah's was even longer than that, right? Sarah's was like somewhere closer to 30 hours too. And when you get this Derek Sarah, sorry, I forgot we have 2 Sarahs here, but Derek Sarah was about 30 hours. And then your Sarah was a 3.5 hours.
Get out of here.
We'll get to Wells in a minute.
To finish up Madeline, she, once we reached a little after midnight, she came back in. And of course we went to the hospital a long time before that, so everybody's exhausted. And she's like, it's go time. It's time to push. And the coolest thing, it's like a movie. The OB finally comes in and like she throws her arms out, and they like just put her body armor on, right? So they slide on, and she steps in her boot things and then pulls her little shield down, and I'm like, whoa, this is awesome.
She's like, I'm about to get bled on.
Yeah. And then she slid right under
from blood and fluid.
Oh, and the nursing staff, the bedside manner was unbelievable. We just still to this day rant and rave.
So don't talk about. Let's interject right here.
Yeah,
Do not say the name of your doctor or your hospital.
No.
We're just trying to keep everything.
Pushing lasted for 45 minutes.
Whoa. Okay, that's pretty fast for a first time.
Yeah, but it felt like 5 minutes, and once he was here, it was just.
Did you look like some dads stay up at the head? Were you a head dad or were you a vagina dad?
So there were two people in the room, her mom and me. She said her mama could stay north of the equator, and I was more than welcome. I wanted to be up in there as much as I could. I wanted to have the full experience.
So if they would have let you catch Baker, would you have caught him?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have.
If they would have let me put the mineral oil on during the process, I would have been game.
And stretched her perineum?
Oh, whatever.
Oh my God, I
was just watching the process, and it was fascinating. It's the woman's body is.
Do you watch surgeries on YouTube?
I have before.
Are you one of those kind of guys?
I watched a C-section just so I would know in case we would have to go there, in advance. But luckily, 22 hours, and she was unbelievable. I've always respected my wife, but it's a newfound respect.
She went completely natural with Pitocin.
Yeah,
man. High five to Madeline. Let's take a drink for Madeline.
Yeah.
Whoop, drinks.
I'll take one.
Everybody, I'll go.
Hey, bartender.
I'm getting a little parched over here. You need another one. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, everyone. I have to move away from the microphone and pass a beer. I am the bartender. Does anyone else?
That.
Okay, let's do. To our I'm going to keep this in here. To our audience. Here you go, Wells. Sliding them across the table.
I'm on a different speed than you guys tonight.
Let's tell everybody what we're drinking. Let's give a shout out. What is this beer we're drinking? Lagunitas, I think.
Lagunitas.
IPA.
Or Indian
Where is this brewery from?
San Diego.
San Diego. Cheers. To
Near
San
there
Diego.
somewhere. I don't know.
I'll see if they want to sponsor the episode.
There you go. I like that.
Now we're going to take a short break to just share a few things with you, and we'll be right back with our guest. I'm so excited to tell you about my first book that I wrote that is launching this summer. It's a 42-week guide to your pregnancy. It's a collection of birth stories. It has a ton of doula advice from all of the questions that my clients have asked me over the last 14 years. It has hysterical partner tips that you will want to read to your partner. And it has journaling prompts because nobody has time to write 20 pages in their journal about their pregnancy. So I've taken the liberty to give you some prompts of things that I think you might want to remember back on after the baby's born. So again, you can go to birthstory.com and pre-order a copy today, and it would mean the world to me. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I need your help to spread the word. If you know anyone who is pregnant, is trying to become pregnant, or just loves a good birth story, if you could send them to iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or SoundCloud, wherever they listen to their podcasts, and ask them to subscribe to the Birth Story podcast. Okay, Wells, let's hear about this 3.5 hour labor from your perspective, because you are funny.
New Year's Eve, I woke up. I actually had to go to work for, 6 or 7 hours. And I woke up, had this weird feeling. I was like, something's not right here today. So I actually stayed home that day. Come about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, Sarah was like, Wells, I'm starting to have contractions. And I was like, all right, go time. Let's do this. So she starts walking up and down the stairs. She's starting to get real active, and she's like, let's get this thing going. And and she comes up to the bedroom about 11:30, and I'm like, Sarah, how you feeling? She's like, I need to go sit down. She goes down, sits in the bathroom for a while. I call Heidi, and I'm like, Heidi, I think we're about to have this baby here after a while. Sarah's having some really hard contractions. She's like, all right, I'm at the mall. I'll come right back by there and see you guys. She comes in there, and she's like, you guys got to get going to the hospital here in a second. Wells, once these contractions get like less than 3 minutes, go. You're 4 miles from the hospital. And Sarah obviously waits till like it's 2 minutes apart. She still at this point had not broken her water. We get all the way to the hospital. We pull in the same time to the hospital as Heidi's pulling in. Heidi grabs a wheelchair, and they take Sarah, go running past security. I go and try to find a parking spot. Literally didn't know where to go in the hospital.
Well, let's talk about the car ride, though. So, what were you thinking? You were like, oh, my God, my wife's been in labor for 10 minutes, and we're on our way to the hospital. And, What was Sarah like? What was she acting like? Like, what was it?
She was sitting there. She like rolled down the window. She was trying to listen to music and just trying to get in this calm, like, little spot. She didn't want to talk whatsoever. And I was like, Sarah, what can I do? She was like, well, all I know is if my water breaks in your brand new Suburban, I'm in trouble. And I am not much
She was keeping her water in for you.
Yes.
So.
Any extra fluid I am not a fan of. I don't like blood. I kept as far away from the south of the equator as I could during the pregnancy. So, we get into the hospital room. I hold her hand. I try to stay up there as far up there as I can, not look down there. Sarah's over there squatting, trying to get ready to have this baby. I mean, I think within 40 minutes of being in the hospital room, we had the baby. The doctor was like, do you want to cut the umbilical cord? And I was like, hell no. Like, just go away. And my wife's over there like, I'll cut it. And I'm like...
That's what my wife said, too.
That's awesome.
So, did you cut the umbilical cord, Garin?
I did.
Okay, and then Wells, you did not. And then Derek, did you?
Sarah wanted to, but she was too tired, and they offered it to me, and I was like, that's your job. I don't...
Oh, that's so funny. Okay. So start to finish, your wife was, 3.5 hour labor until your son was in your arms?
Yeah.
And then, so just tell me, what was that when you saw him come out for the first time?
My best friend had actually had his baby 3 months beforehand. And he's one of those guys that just reads everything and just has to know everything about pregnancy. He was like, Wells, I read everything there was to be about pregnant. But then he came out with a cone head. And he was like, I didn't know babies had cone heads. So, I was sitting there kind of waiting for Trip to come out. He pops
with this
out.
Big cone head.
He pops out, and it wasn't that bad. And I was expecting the movie, the Conehead movie, to come out.
Some of them look like that.
Yeah, and some of them do. So I was like, here we go. I was like, we got all our fingers, got all our toes. We don't have a Conehead. We're good to go.
Yeah.
So
he's cute. Yeah. Okay. So Derek, talk to me about Sarah's she had a long labor. So just tell me from your perspective though, how delivery went down.
It was a long day. It was just crazy. She labored. I mean, most of it was because of whatever, I think what condition or cyst she had that to where
she had some scar tissue on her cervix, so it was stopping her from progressing.
So yeah, that's why it was a lot of intense contractions, and we're thinking we used your expertise and knowledge to try to time going to the hospital. I mean, she went into labor at midnight, and we're like, okay, well, we know that it's still going to be a really long time before we go to the hospital. She gets in the bathtub, just she's never had a contraction before, so that was scary for both of us. But we're like, okay, there's going to be a lot more of them. It's a process. And she did really, really well until you came over at 6 a.m. and walked around the neighborhood a little bit, and we're like, I mean, to me that's crazy. Already been 6 hours of just nothing going on except she's timing them out, and she's all meticulous about everything, and I'm just like, all right, here, excited, but also knowing that we got a long road ahead of us, and I don't really know. I'm just here to listen to what she says she needs and what Heidi says we're supposed to do, and maybe drive the car to the hospital at some point. But then we ended up, I don't know, I think that Sarah and I argued about this on your podcast last time about what time. It was so crazy. I couldn't remember if it was, early, late morning, or we didn't go to the hospital until noon or 1 o'clock. I don't really remember, but
I think it was more in the afternoon.
Okay. So that's a long damn time to be just sitting around the house contracting and thinking that you want to time it so that you're not at the hospital too early, and you're just going to have the baby when you get there. And we get there, and it seems like she is having a baby in seconds. I mean, to me, just based on the level of pain she was in, and it was intense. And
they were like, sorry, you're 1 centimeter dive.
A long way ahead.
Yeah.
Because she had scar tissue on her cervix, so her cervix wasn't opening. So she ended up having to have an epidural so that they could open up her cervix and, get it going. But yes, I can understand from your perspective how you would, because from my perspective, I remember saying to his wife, I think we need to go to the hospital, because if you were progressing, things would be coming out of you, like a little bit of blood, a little bit of fluid, maybe like your water. Like, I could tell she was having major contractions, but I could tell nothing was happening. And I was like, we're going to have to go intervene, which was, what we ended up doing.
So when they figured that out, the doctor said, I know you're wanted in your birth plan to natural childbirth, and she's a tough person. She has her mind set on something, but he was like, to go in and get this scar tissue out, it's going to be worse than childbirth. He was like, I would really recommend getting an epidural. And she was like, okay, well, you're the expert. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like the right move. And then somebody has to witness this massive 8-foot needle going into her back. And they nominated me, which they don't know that I don't watch surgeries on YouTube. Like, I'm the anti-medical guy. And,
so you watched the needle go in?
I watched it the first time. I thought that I had to. I felt obligated. And that was crazy, man. That's a massive thing to go into a person's body. And, the anesthesiologist is just like, I'm going to go play 9 holes after this, and just is not careful about it at all. But
well, they were careful. They were just relaxed about it.
Yeah, everybody's relaxed.
Like,
and no one should be relaxed in that environment. I mean, it's good that they're relaxed, right? I guess. But I wasn't the guy to be witnessing that. I shouldn't have. So then she had to get another one later, same night,
epidural stopped working.
I
had to do it again.
I bowed out on that one.
So let me ask you from like a dad's perspective, when you're watching like your wife like in pain, totally, I would say suffering at some point with Sarah's labor, and then she gets this like glorious epidural and she relaxes and she goes to sleep. Like, was that helpful for you? Was the epidural like a good thing for you?
I have to go on the experts. She was in a lot of pain, but I was like, well, what does everybody else have to say? Like, is this okay? Is this normal? So I'm paying attention, like Garin, asking a lot of questions and trying to gather information that to me is kind of more reliable than the person that's in it. Yeah. So for her, I'm just like trying to be understanding, and, you can squeeze the shit out of my hand or do whatever you got to do, but it's, I don't know. It was new for both of us. So
when delivery happened, were you a north guy or a south guy?
Oh, definitely north guy until, and actually that's part of it, is like, I felt like that was the more important place to be, where this person is going through excruciating pain and like looking her in the eyes. And that's where she needed me, is right there holding hands, locked in. And there's nothing to see down there. No. I've seen that. But then when it was like those precious seconds, like there's only, how many seconds does it take for a human being to come out of a vagina? I mean, only a few seconds. And I mean, don't you want to see that if it's your child? Yes. Like, I couldn't help it.
Look at Wells.
I couldn't help it, man. I couldn't help it. No. I'm the anti-medical guy, but I couldn't help it. I was already there, and I was like, it's only going to happen for like 4 seconds, and then it's over. So I apparently, this does not sound like me at all, but apparently all the nurses and afterwards, they were like, man, your husband, he was all about it. He was holding your leg up with one hand, had your hand squeezing in the other hand, and was staring, like waiting for, that finish line.
You were probably squeezing her, not her squeezing.
Yeah, probably. That's probably more accurate.
Now, did anybody here watch the placenta be delivered?
No.
Wells is solid. No.
Garin probably ate it.
I wanted to watch.
Garin, did you
but
encapsulate the placenta for
you know
yourself?
what? I wanted to watch, but I saw them pushing, and I didn't. I mean, I got
Garin
to see
is
it
doing like a
after.
mashed potatoes. We call it like mashed potatoes, where they like push on the uterus to get it.
Yes,
to
it's
contract.
went.
wish everyone
I
could
remember
see
that
this.
because it was like they knocked the pitocin up, but then once Baker was here, I remember looking over at the machine that it was pumping the pitocin, and then that sucker had gone up even higher, and I'm like, why are you still getting pitocin? They're like, you still have to contract to make this placenta come out. And I got to see what it looked like afterwards because I wanted to, but
Did she encapsulate it?
no.
No, but Sarah did. Wells.
My Sarah did encapsulate hers.
Okay, and she's probably out of pills by now, right?
I think
Because it's
she's-
maybe 6 weeks old.
Just taken the last couple.
Okay.
What does that mean?
It's where they like dehydrate the placenta and then they put it into little capsules and then the moms will ingest the placenta and it helps to kind of like with milk supply. It helps to restore your iron from your blood loss. Like there's a million benefits to it.
So this is okay. This is a more modern. They put it in. I've heard stories.
I mean,
back in
yes.
the,
I mean,
you know,
back in it, like
used to just
mammals,
have
like
a-
just eat it, and I'm sure like different cultures have different like placenta rituals, and I'm sure there are some cultures that just straight up eat it. But like, no, in the United States, we dehydrate it and put it in a pretty capsule, and you swallow it just like a vitamin. so
that's
you wouldn't
bad.
really even
No
know.
taste involved.
I guess
You
I'd
don't
do
even
some of
know
those.
if you're taking, turmeric or echinacea or if you're taking placenta, who knows? So, okay. So babies are born and you guys come home that first day. And then I just want you to talk about and when I'm asking this question, it's for new dads that are listening, like Wells, and you're like right in it at 6 weeks. Like, what's your advice for those that first week? Like, what's your advice for new dads?
I would definitely say like that first week, try to help your wife get up as many times as you can to change the diaper when she's trying to feed them during the middle of the night because she's absolutely exhausted. I mean, Sarah was definitely exhausted. I still had to work, so he would sleep from like 11 to 2. I tried to get up at 2, change him one time, and then she'd get back up at 5 or 7, depending on what it is. And
Yeah.
but anytime you can help that way, it's definitely very helpful for your spouse. I mean, I feel like Sarah's kind of getting back. I mean, she's went start working out today.
Yeah, I saw Wells' wife the other day, and some women just kind of make motherhood look really easy, and Sarah's one of those people, but it makes me think, is there something that she needs that she's not asking for, or is she really just doing okay?
She really is just doing okay. Seriously, she's just like she was like born to be a mother.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just kind of got that kind of feeling about her, and every time I'm looking at her, I'm like, Sarah, I need 10 hours of sleep tonight. And she's like, okay, I'm good. And I got 2 today, and she's good to go.
Yeah. She's also, let's remind everyone that that's not like typical for all moms. She's also the mom that climbed Mount Kilimanjaro without training. So just to be clear on that one. So, all right, Garin, like what's your big advice for that first week, coming home?
Hopefully you share a great relationship with your wife or your significant other. As well spoke, more of that teamwork aspect.
I don't think any dad's listening to this podcast unless their wife made them, right? Which means they probably have a pretty good relationship. My target audience is not going to be like the single dad.
Okay. Well, perfect. So being able to really incorporate that teamwork of the open line of communication, you do everything together or it's one off. So that's how we did with Baker's diaper changes during the night. I would get up and do the diaper change, and then I would bring him to her so she could nurse, and then we'd put him back down. And once again, the swaddle thing for me was always, I didn't know if I was doing it too tight or too loose, so I would always
Velcro just rocks.
I let Madeline do that. I'll say, I don't know if this is too tight or not, and she'd just give it to me.
So it's pretty consistent across the board that you guys would say to new dads, make sure that you have the Velcro swaddle on board.
No button things and all Velcro.
Yeah.
It's so nice where, I mean, I know back when you old-fashioned swaddle or what they do in the hospital still, I mean, it worked great. But when you have that opportunity of something that simplifies the process but gives you the same, that gives him or her the same satisfaction, that's it.
So, Derek, those first nights that, you're about to do it again. So what advice do you need to give yourself, too, for about to go through it again?
I hope it's a lot different. Well, I know it'll be different this time because I'm more confident, even though I still feel like I have a lot of insecurities about being a dad because, to be honest, Sarah's Middle Eastern and that culture is a lot more... I mean, a lot of people in this country would say it's not progressive. She feels like her role is a lot of things that I've even seen, like friends and different people that look at me like I don't do enough.
But she doesn't want you to do
exactly,
more.
And that's a cultural thing, and so.
Well, there may be a few things she wants you to do.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is initially in those few weeks, coming home is really hard, is brand new. We didn't know what we were doing. She was terrified and didn't really trust me that much. Even though we were in a really good place in our relationship, it just was...
I'm going to jump in here, too, on giving up control. From the mom's perspective, sometimes it's really difficult. And I remember my husband early on saying, Heidi, there's your way and there's my way, and they're both right. Like, and I think it was probably about swaddling. Yes. Like I was probably like I probably said swaddle the baby, and then I looked over his shoulder and was like, "You're not swaddling the baby right." And I just remember him stopping me and saying, "My way, your way, like you want me to do this?" And so I think that for moms and dads that are listening, yes, there are multiple right ways. There's grandma's way is right, mama's way is right, daddy's way is right, and letting go of some of that control so that you can get help or ask for help, I think is really important. So this is going to lead me into, let's talk about before your baby was born, who were you and what did you love doing that you're missing right now? So Garin.
I have no problem saying this. And I love to work out, specifically running. I love running, and it's a release. It's with my personal confidence within myself. I'm a different person when I'm able to stay in shape and work out. And you think of the year before Baker was born, I'd ran the Chicago Marathon. I ran a half in New Orleans, among a couple other races. And I remember telling a girl, Hillary, if you ever listen to this podcast, you were right. But I remember running with her and saying, when Baker comes, I'm still going to get out and get my 3-4 runs in a week. And she said, talk to me when he gets here. I'm like, whatever, okay. I'm not the one having the baby. But when he came into the world, I love running. That's a great priority. Yeah. Well, that priority, it goes way down on the totem pole because even still to this day, I mean, Baker's 8.5 months. Am I running again? Yes. Am I running as much as I used to? No. Does it bother me a little bit? Yes. But coming home every day when I go for a run or first thing in the morning, but instead I get to see him and play with him and watch his face light up. That's my little monster, and that trumps running. Listen, if I end up weighing 600 pounds, it is well worth it to enjoy those times. And Madeline tells me all the time, go run, just go run. But it's my self-guilt where I just don't want to leave his side. I just want to, going back to work, I want to spend every moment I have with him that I can. But we're getting to a point now where sleeping through the night. So I do have the opportunity to get up in the morning, get my workout in, and then still experience everything. So it's more of, your priorities change, and it's also a time thing. Like, he's number one, so let's keep it there. And when you're in a good spot with him, like with sleeping, for example, and you can get up in the morning and go, and you don't miss a beat, then I can resume that. But running for me was my go-to.
If you could go back to the day he was born, that guy that was running 3 or 4 miles, would you do anything differently?
In regards to...
Like, would you have, if you could go back, would you have done more self-care through the last 9 months? Would you have given yourself permission, or do you like where you're at?
I like where I'm at. I have absolutely no regrets, because I know every single moment that I've had in order to spend with him.
Yeah.
That's number one. Like, I love my job. I love my wife, obviously my wife, our dogs, but man...
We're going to get to a tough question in a minute on that one. So, Wells, you're 6 weeks in. I don't know what your life was, if it's much different than it was 6 weeks ago, but I know that you said you have some passions. So tell us about like what you're passionate about, what makes you happy, and what, if there's anything that you've been missing over the last 6 weeks.
So I would definitely say, the passions I have are not running. I have a 0.0 sticker on my car.
Yes. 0 points. That is so funny.
So my wife runs marathons. She's a big hiker. I, on the other hand, want to travel and play golf. So I've been to Scotland and played. I've been, played all over the U.S. and different open courses. I enjoy doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
How
much golf have you played in the last 6 weeks?
So I have a guy's trip that we go at the end of March. Okay. And every year, the only time I ever really play that much is now through then. So Sarah's still been like, go out and hit a couple golf balls. She's like, you got to bring the trophy home. Don't embarrass our family. But
Sarah's also on maternity leave right now. So when she goes back to work...
will be the day after I get back from that golf trip.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. I would love to check in with you a year from now and see, if you were able. But my advice to you and to moms is self-care is really important, but there's also a balance, right? So, do you give up running or do you give up golf? No. But sometimes you have to scale it back a little bit to have some balance, but don't get away from it. Put it on put that golf trip on the calendar, talk to your partner about it, have that open communication and find that balance.
That first month, we definitely did not have that balance. I mean, it was, us with Trip at all times. Now it's kind of getting to that point, like, hey, your girlfriends are still going out to yoga on Tuesday. Why don't you go? I'll keep the baby. So we're starting to get back to our kind of normal lives again and just live that way. So it's just now getting to where we can kind of figure out, hey, we still got a kid, but we still got lives going on too. So
so important. Derek, how about you? What are some of the things that you, now Shai is 2.5 years old, so you're much further down the dad road. So what were some things that brought you joy and, that you were passionate about? And then before you had a daughter, and then are those things still in your life?
Golf, yes. I played this morning because they're both in Texas right now. So you got to take those opportunities.
That's a really good time to go play golf. Yeah. Yes, when your child is out of town. Yeah,
and running too. Actually, both of you guys share passions of mine. And, I find that if I don't, the golf isn't so much a force. That's finding the time because it's an all day or multiple day activity, and so it's about looking at the calendars and the logistics of that is tougher now. But she knows it's important. Thank God, she's a therapist that understands self-care and encourages me in that way. But it is tougher now. But the running thing, that doesn't take near as much time, and it's a necessity. I have to remind myself constantly that, I am so much of a worse version of myself if I'm not running 2 or 3 miles a day. Just get it in somehow. I mean, and it doesn't have to be that, but something, man. I mean, some people meditate, do yoga, whatever, where you're just...
Well, and after 6 months of age, your child can go in the jogger with you. And so I've seen Derek we live in the same neighborhood, and about 50% of the time I see Derek jogging with baby Shia. And then about 50% of the time on your own. So I've found that kind of cool, like watching you go through the neighborhood. You're getting your self-care in, and you're hanging out with your daughter.
I love that. Yeah.
You know?
Because she loves it too. She usually passes out within like 2 minutes of leaving the house.
Yeah. I love it. Well, go ahead.
We just started that process. So we got that little spurt, our yearly, every year you get that 1 week in February that makes you reach for summertime because the weather's so perfect.
Yeah.
And I got to throw him in the stroller for a couple of runs. And, that's kind of where, that's my bonding time with him. That gives Madeline some time, and that's something that I've definitely...
breather.
And because now she's going through becoming a stay-at-home mom, which is... She kind of like Will said, that's her passion. That's what she wants to do, and of course, I fully support that. And although she's a stay-at-home mom, she still needs her time too. So being able to take the baby, even if
she needs more time,
absolutely,
she needs more time.
And that's and
adult time.
Yeah,
every week. That's I emphasize that with her. Whatever you want to do, you need to go do that. You have to have that personal time.
Yeah.
It's great for your relationship, your marriage, and your relationship with your child, of course.
Yeah. Well, does Sarah have a jogger?
So Sarah does have a jogger.
Okay.
It's already just sitting there. She's like,
waiting.
She's like, please let him get a stable head soon.
Yeah. I figured I was going to tell you, buy it for her if she doesn't already have one. Okay. So we're going to wrap it up here soon, but I really want to kind of frame that same question, but around your marriage and your relationship. And so, and again, Wells, you're brand new on this. Derek, they're going on baby number 2, and Garin, you're about 8.5, 9 months in. So talk to me about what you are doing or what you're not doing. Like, what are you doing right? What are you doing wrong with your marriage right now? Like, how is it different than it was before the babies arrived? And then what are you doing? Do you guys go on dates? Like, just to talk to me about what's going on in your lives.
Just had my first date within the last week.
So within 6 weeks, you went on a date.
Yep.
That's amazing. Okay. Where'd you go?
We went to Maria's. It's
what is that?
Mexican restaurant, South Boulevard.
Okay.
Best Mexican food here in Charlotte.
Okay. So, Derek, tell me, 2.5 years in, are you and Sarah are you dating a lot? Are you getting babysitters? Like, what are you guys doing to keep your marriage healthy?
Any friend, any neighbor, anyone we can that wants to watch her for a couple hours, and we go, try to do it once a month. We don't really have a schedule, but we kind of feel it. We know when we need one. And so I think we're really healthy in that way and connected. The dates are huge because you get the big dose. And I don't know. I did want to say something.
I was I didn't know if you were going for something else there. So say it. What's on your mind?
Well, just, when we were talking about coming home and like, I don't know what young dads are feeling when they're in the thick of a moment that's new and scary. Like, I don't know, the best thing that I've learned, I think, and it's so applicable to like everything, is to just zoom out and realize that it is so brief. And even though it feels so intense, every experience that we now have, and I think dads and moms are so, they get it. They just feel it. They understand this in a way that nobody else can. Is just like what's real and intense today is going to be gone, and it's going to be a new thing tomorrow. And so it's just like hang in there and zoom out.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad that you're saying this, Derek, because there's going to be a lot of people that are listening that when you have a baby or 2 babies, it takes a real toll on your marriage at some point. I don't care how happy you are. At some point, having children is going to take a toll on your marriage. It's going to slow down your sex life. It's going to slow down communication. Somebody's going to resent somebody. So I just appreciate that
Just
you're having
hang
this
in there
conversation.
and-
Hang
yeah.
in there,
And I
zoom
only-
out. So Garin, so you tell us about you and Madeline. Like, how's your marriage been, and what have you guys been doing to, are you dating?
100%. And kind of like Will said, in the beginning, that first little period, it's almost like you both know. Obviously, he's number one.
Yeah.
We got to get to that point. And that's one thing that I've learned along the way so far through almost 9 months is there are phases. If it's a phase of or steps, that they go through in their life of development, if it's with sleep, if it's with holding their head up, just whatever it might be. As they say, this too shall pass. You enjoy every minute of it, but at the same time, there are certain things test you along the way, kind of like you said, Derek. But our marriage, that's one thing that we always said, and we've stayed true to, was dating is important. Our marriage. If our marriage isn't successful, then that
Your parenting is not going to be
exactly.
successful. Well, we've got time for one more question, and I'm going to go with the boobs. Everyone's wife nursed here is nursing, right? Has anyone here tasted the breast milk?
Of course.
Yes.
All three of you guys?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. All three of you guys tried it.
Yeah.
What did it taste like?
It's delicious.
It's like a warm sugar milk, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I prefer it, actually.
I mean, and you hear a lot of people drink breast milk, right?
Well, I
It
tried
has
mine. I was just curious. Yeah, it was like a sweet, warm milk.
it's not too shabby.
I'm really I'm impressed by you guys here.
But now,
Incredible.
she's almost 9 months, post baby, and I mean, even today, it's like, well, a little they're still. I want to enjoy them.
While they're still full of milk.
While they're full of goods.
Yeah.
But she just rolls her eyes. It's give and take, just like anything else, right?
I definitely still go up and tug on them. Baby might be eating, and I'm be like, well, I'll just grab them while the baby's eating,
I love you guys. We've been talking for an hour and 25 minutes, and we are getting kicked out of the podcast studio because we have gone over our time. So right now, the very last thing is if you could tell new dads the one thing to not say to your partner ever, like what got you in trouble and what would you say don't say out loud?
Madeline's somebody that she bounced back from pregnancy. I mean, she looks amazing. Even, 2 months afterwards, she looked like she did before. But I said, in a nice way, because I love to run, go out and get a workout in. Go get a run. Go walk. Well, of course, to a woman, that might be a little different. That's what are you trying to say? And it's like, honey, you look great, but I'm thinking exercise. That's what I said. Go out and get you some exercise. And I remember getting the death stare.
No,
I was like,
she interpreted it.
Yeah, so I learned right there just to choose my words wisely.
You're not allowed to say the truth, in some ways, because the emotional difference is what I noticed, and I really would say, try not to say you're being emotional. The pregnancy is making you more emotional. Just ignore the pregnancy part. Say what you got to say, but don't attach it to the pregnancy. Because, even though there's some very clear differences in this person and the way that they interact with you, just try not to make that connection because they don't want to believe that.
And since you're new in this, I'm going to give you some advice, and everyone else listening, don't engage. So when we're going crazy, we're tired, we haven't slept, and we're saying things that don't really make sense, do not engage. Just walk away because, like you said, Derek, earlier, zoom out. The moment's going to be gone. In 5 minutes, she's going to be over it. Do not engage. Everybody got it? You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for being on the Birth
Heidi.
Story podcast and for helping out new dads.
Thanks, Addie.
Thank you, Heidi.
for listening to Birth Story. My goal is you will walk away from each episode with a clear picture of how labor and delivery might go, and that you will feel empowered by the end of your pregnancy to speak